Lesson 10 of Unit 5 is all about creating an app called the Color Sleuth. The people at code.org have already included all the elements on the screen that we need. We just have to write the code. Right now, if we run the code, it just sets the color of one of the buttons or one of the squares to orange. And what they've instructed us to do is to add some code which sets the color to the other three buttons to orange. So whatever that color was there that we set, we're going to make that the background color of the other buttons. And I think that's all they want us to do for now. In the next puzzle, they want us to set the color of one of the buttons or one of the squares to a slightly different color. So we're going to define a variable to be an RGB color. And for right now, I'm just following the numbers that they stated. And they want us to do this with button 3. And now instead of setting the color to color, we're going to set the color to this variable called different color. So now when we run, we should see one of the colors slightly different. Then in puzzle 7, they want us to, instead of just changing the property of button 3, they want us to choose a random button to choose the color of. So we're going to create a new variable called rand button ID. And that's going to equal the word button plus some random number between 1 and 4, since we have buttons labeled button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4. And then instead of setting the property of button 3, we're going to set the property of rand button ID to a different color. And then we're going to do a console log rand button ID just so we can see which button was randomly selected to be the different button. So if we run this, button 2 is the different button, and we should see a slightly different color there. If we run it again, this time button 4 is the different button. We should see a slightly different color there, and so on. Then in puzzle 9, they want us to, instead of always making the buttons a shade of orange, they want us to pick a random color. So I'm going to set up 3 variables to do this. I'm going to have a variable called myR for red, which is a random number from 0 to 235. And I want to have another variable called myGreen, or myG, which is a random number from 0 to 235, and myB, which is a random number from 0 to 235. So then my RGB color is going to be my R, my G, and my B. So that's going to be the RGB color. And then that's going to be the color set to all 4 buttons. And then for my different color, I'm going to do my R plus 20. And my green, my G, plus 20. And my blue, my B, plus 20. So for the different color, we're going to do all of those 3 random colors we chose before for the RGB and add 20 to them. And that's the reason why we only went up to 235, because a valid color can only be 0 to 255. So we pick a random number for all of the colors between 0 and 235, and then we change all 3 of those channels by 20. and then we pick a random button to make different colors. So now when we run it, now we got all different, we got red with one that's a little bit off shade, button 2. We run it again, now we got green, button 3 is different. And now we run it again, we got shades of kind of a dark blue, and button 1 is a different color. Then in puzzle 10, they want us to turn everything we just wrote into a function. And the reason for that is, as we move through lesson 10, the program is going to get a little bit involved, and we might want to do all of this that we just did from different locations within the program. So we're going to create a function called setBoard. And that function is going to contain all of this code that we just wrote. I'm going to cut that and I'm going to paste it up here, and then expand this a little bit. I'm going to take and highlight all of that code and tab it over one notch. So now we have a function called setBoard, and then from anywhere within our program we can say setBoard, and all of that same stuff that we just got done perfecting will run fine. So now we do this. We got different shades of purple with button 1 off, and then we run it again. We got different shades of kind of a grayish green with button 3 is the different color, and so on. So this is still working as we expected, but now we have all of those commands to set up the colors in a button called setBoard. So that will get you through the first 10 puzzles of lesson 10, and we'll do another video here that'll pick up some of the other puzzles in lesson 10.